Alrighty, so I see most of you have voted. So now many of you see yourself as entrepreneurs. That is amazing. You're in the right place. Not only will this ambition help you long-term in life, but also anywhere you go. So very, very excited to jump into our conversations with both Abarna and then our student panel later on. It's going to be very, very helpful for all of you ambitious students who are interested in pursuing entrepreneurship and wanting to make an impact. So excited to see the audience and the turnout we have today. So thank you for completing that poll. And before I get into things, just a few logistical notes. If you have any questions for myself or any of our speakers at any point in the conference, please feel free to open up the Q&A section and shoot a question through that. And if you can't find the Q&A button, just feel free to send any questions in the chat. I will try my best to get to all the questions you send in. Now, I'm going to kick off the conference by quickly running through our agenda. So first off, we will have a founder fireside chat with Abarna Raj. From there, we will have a 5-minute survey. And then after that, we'll have a student founder spotlight panel with 2 student entrepreneurs. So very excited to jump into this. Now let's give a warm welcome to Abarna Raj. Abarna is the CEO and founder of Palmera.org. She started her career by leading social impact initiatives for massive companies like PricewaterhouseCoopers and Leighton. And then in 2014, she co-founded Palmera, an amazing development agency that works in Sri Lanka to help vulnerable families earn a living income. Thank you so much for joining us today, Abarna.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud.
Okay. Great.
Awesome. So again, thank you for joining us. Before we jump into things, tell us a bit more about Palmera and how this amazing organization came to be.
So Palmera works with women who are facing poverty or facing the impacts of natural disaster or war and have now found themselves without any way to earn an income. So they're looking after their children and it's really, really tough for them. They're usually living in places that are not that safe or in places that are very far and they don't have a community that can look after their children. So as a result, they don't have enough money for the basics, the food, the clothes, the shelter, the toilets, and Palmera works to help start their businesses, which is very difficult context because there's not many services, and so we're trying to build the business environment and the business ecosystem so they can thrive. And Palmera began when I was a student, like many of you who are listening today, and I studied with the ambition to become a lawyer, and I passed qualified as a lawyer, and then I went to Sri Lanka and I had this experience and realized that maybe the way I wanted to be entrepreneurial was to solve a different problem, which was a social problem. And that had me start this journey, and it was a lot of bumps on the road, and then both trying to set up Palmera, but also personally trying to figure out, do I want to do a social problem or do a business, like a traditional business? And over the years, it kind of grew and grew to what it is today.
So if you had to kind of describe the mission and the values that really drive what you do every day, and maybe pinpoint it to a few values that really drive what you do, what would those values be?
The first is impact. So it's really, really important for everything that we do that we actually create change. And for us, change is that women's incomes are increasing and they have started a business and they can feed their children. So the same way that people might in the business world measure income or revenue or number of things they sold, we're measuring impact to make sure that we're having this change. That's really important. The second thing that's really important to us is we want to make sure that people we are trying to help have a voice in how they want to start their business and what they want to do. A lot of the time, sometimes, you know, we have the best of intention as people who are trying to solve social problems, and we go and say, this is what's going to happen and this is what's going to be done. And, you know, and you kind of, sometimes that's not the right approach and it's not the right way to do things. So very core to how we work is what we call local ownership, that the women who are in this context, they know what they need and they understand what the challenges they face. And it's about listening, a lot of listening and a lot of understanding and compassion in the way we work. And the last value is what we call integrity. That is about, you know, people give us funds, their money, and they expect this money to be used in the right way. And sometimes people who are doing social causes, there's a lot of bad press that money gets used in the wrong way. And so for us, it's really important that I don't think that's the norm. I don't think that's the case. I think there's a few bad eggs, but as a result, we all get that reputation. So for us, we just want to make sure there's no way that anybody could ever find that hole in our organization. And so those three pillars, impact, local ownership and integrity, really is the basis of how we make all our decisions.
Right. And just for our audience, so in the past, we've had speakers who are more on the for-profit side. So think tech businesses, that sort of thing. Whereas social enterprises like Palmera might be less of something that students are aware of. So tell us a bit about how a social mission organization like Palmera is unique from a consumer or business oriented one.
Well, we're still a business, so we still have customers, but the customers are very vulnerable and they can't usually pay. And we actually have two customers because we have donors. So they're people who give us the money. They're still a customer because we have to give them something back. We don't have a product that we can give anyone necessarily, you know, like the donor doesn't get something back in return. But they do expect something. You know, they expect to feel good. They expect to know knowledge what they're, so we do have it's like we're a service industry in that way. Like we still have to provide a service for the funds they give. And we still have to provide a product to the woman, which is a business service, even though they may not pay. So we still have the same components. We still have to raise money. We still have staff that we have to pay. But we still have marketing we have to do, and we still have offices, you know, that we have to have. So it's all the same as a normal business. It's just that it's really tough because you can't charge the person who's getting your service, and the person who is getting your service expects that you spend your money in a particular way. If you sell, you know, a soft drink, the person who buys it they just want to buy your soft drink. They don't say, oh, you should only spend this much on your office. You should only take this salary. You should not go on this plane when you travel. They don't dictate all these terms. So we are the same, but we just have a lot of challenges in how we run our business.
Lots of challenges, but at the same time, you've been able to create so much impact. So why don't you tell us a bit about what that impact looks like and all the really cool things that Palmera has been able to do since its inception?
But yeah, look, I kind of was talking about the business side, that there's challenges, but when you find the right people and you really attract people who have this as their cause or their social mission, the innovation that comes when you don't have much to work with is quite great. You know, when you don't have as much money to spend, you really think outside the box and you think differently because you are forced to think differently. And as a result, when you have a lot of people who are so passionate about solving this problem and everyone is forced to work innovatively, the impact can be great. So for us, we work with about 30,000 people. So that's the number of people that we work with, and we stay in areas for a long time, for about 5 years. And our goal is to increase income by at least 80% across those 30,000 people. And as a result of increasing that income, we're hoping that families can afford the food, education, shelter for themselves. So how we measure this is, for example, recently with COVID, there was a lot of need for these families to have food packages and emergency relief because they didn't have the funds. But in the communities where we've worked, those families didn't need any food relief and packages because we had set up their businesses and set up village banks and savings systems and other mechanisms that they had enough for a rainy day. So when it came to a crisis like COVID or a flood, they have enough and they're not waiting. You know, will the government give me something? Will an international NGO give me relief? So that's one of the biggest impacts we've had. And the other really big impact besides income that we've had is we work in really broken communities. And in these areas we work, people need to really help each other and support each other. If that's not there, it's really hard to sell your product to the market because you have to work together to sell your product. You might need to rent a vehicle together to get to the marketplace. And so one of the biggest impacts we've had in these communities is kind of improve the togetherness of these places.
So from kind of like a ground level, can you walk me through what the process looks like from beginning to start, from you entering a community and then being able to help them?
So we go into, we're established, so we have staff on the ground, and over time, we didn't used to have that many, and now we have a lot of staff on the ground. So we have the expertise to be able to, and we have the knowledge of the local area. And so we identify an area where at least 60% of people are struggling to meet their basic needs, the food, the shelter, that piece. And we do an assessment and we check it all out. And then we look at the businesses that they can potentially start in these environments. Some places, it's almost impossible to start businesses, you know, because it's completely destroyed. There's no roads. If we go in and say, look, we're going to start businesses, we're not going to be successful because the government has to do a bit of work to establish everything before we can come in. And so we look at areas where there's enough, you know, but these communities, they have some roads and access to markets, but that's all they have. They don't know what businesses they can start. They don't have any capital, finance. They don't know how to market their products. And then over 5 years, we identify 3 big businesses that these communities can start, and we rebuild the whole ecosystem. So for example, dairy, we figure out in a community, okay, you need vets, you need technical people, you need buyers, you need, you know, feed for your cows, and we start up all those businesses around this community. We set up vets, we set up all these businesses so that the woman can now, when she buys a cow, she has a vet. She has a way to get the feed for her cow. Normally when you just give someone a cow and there's no vet, the cow's going to die. You know, so businesses, in order to be successful, like here in Australia or around the world, sorry, I'm from Australia, but around the world, when you start, you need internet. You don't have to think, oh, wait, I need to go get internet. Internet's just there. But in these places, they don't have all those things that they need to be successful. And that's what keeps a lot of people disconnected and a lot of women unable to start these businesses. So we just set up that whole system around them. But we focus on these 3 sectors because we can't do everything, you know. Like we don't do a business that requires internet because it's going to be impossible for us to get internet to these areas, you know, but we can set up agricultural based businesses. And then we put a team on the ground and we work for 5 years doing everything one by one in systematic ways, because the vet has to come at a certain time, and then the cows have to come at a certain time, and then the buyers have to come at a certain time. So we just help facilitate that whole process. And in the villages now that we've been there for 5 years, you know, recently one of the communities is called the Model Dairy Village. While before there was not even a cow there, but now in that part of the country, it is the place to go to get the best quality milk. And the schools there never used to go past a certain grade because the kids couldn't get to school and afford enough schooling. But now all the kids go to school. We've had, before we came, no one got into university. And over the last 4 years, 42 kids have got into university. But it's because people, mothers and fathers have money and they can afford these things, and they don't have to wait for someone to sponsor, you know, their daughter or son to get into schooling. So that's kind of how it looks. Does that make sense? I've made it a little bit quick so it could be understood.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And it's so exciting to hear how, you've been able to have, or Palmera has been able to make such a deep impact, not only on a single generation, but also entire families within communities, like you said, with the university example, through these efforts that you're conducting. What I'd be really interested to hear is, can you tell me about the moment when you realized, hey, there's something here, there's an opportunity for me to create an impact in this area?
I think that while I was there, which I happened to go during a trip, I saw all this need. But as a young person at that time, I didn't know whether I had the skills or the ability. And I don't think there was one moment. I think over 10 years, I slowly realized that there is more and more that I could do to help other people. And I got more confident in what my skills were and how I could do it. So, for example, initially we decided that we would go into Sri Lanka, but other parts of Southeast Asia. But after a while, because we went into Cambodia and other areas, after a while we realized, actually, because I can speak local language in Sri Lanka, I felt I really understood the women we were working with. And when I was in Cambodia, I felt that I couldn't really always, I mean, not always, I could not understand. I was working through translators. And so we just made decisions like, where can we help? Where's the skill? And we just kept, because we have impact and locally our values at the core, we just kept refining what it is that we did. And personally, as I went on the journey, I just kept seeing those opportunities as I became more confident and able to see those opportunities. So there wasn't one moment. I think everyone thinks there's this one big moment that happens and then you want to like do something. It doesn't always happen like that for everyone. Sometimes it's just, it kind of just gnaws at you for a little while. In my case, 10 years before I started doing this.
Right. So there are lots of questions coming in kind of about how students can apply what you've done with Palmera and maybe implement it a little bit in their own life, in their everyday life as high schoolers. So, you know, standing from where you are, looking back, how would you advise students who want to make an impact? How would you advise them to start preparing themselves for maybe following not the same journey, but like a similar journey? How can a high schooler get started?
Go find an organization that you can work with. So you can learn from that network of people, and that you start to build a network of people who are interested in social causes. So go volunteer, but volunteer for organizations and stay with one organization. A lot of time people go volunteer, like they do one day here and one day here and one day here and one day here. Like stay with one organization and stay with them for a while. So you start to learn all the back end and front end, and you start to meet people and talk to them. And so just stay with one or two and learn deeply from people and observe and try to be around that context and talk to people. So a lot of times people think, okay, I'm going to solve this problem, and they don't really have much of a background, and then they go try to solve it, and usually it doesn't end well. And that's not just for, it's any age. Like I've seen people who are CEOs and then they've earned all their money, and then they say, one day I now want to help people, and the things they come up with are not always very helpful. So my number one advice is to just be around it. And secondly, like read a lot about people who have failed and succeeded on this, because there's so much stuff out there. And if you want to help, you want to learn and just like build knowledge. And you don't need to have a cause. Sometimes people say, well, I don't know what my cause is, you know, that builds. I think a cause sometimes finds you. Sometimes you don't choose the cause will choose you. So be patient.
Right. So just put yourself in a position to really find that, and also immerse yourself and read and just explore. And then kind of go taking it a step further. Um, Looking at it more from the lens of entrepreneurship and problem solving, what do you think are the most important skill sets and mindsets that would be useful for like ambitious young entrepreneurs?
Well, look, I think for me, I've always benefited from having a network of people who I feel confident to ask questions of. Even if, like, it's almost like if I've met someone even once and I think they're an expert in something, feel confident to just call them and say, oh, I met you and I've got this problem. Like, can I meet you for a coffee to work through it with you? So that skill of just being willing to ask. Um, Everyone loves to help people solve problems. They feel really nice to be thought of as someone who wants to solve your problem. So I think that is really important, because you won't know everything and you're by yourself sometimes as an entrepreneur, and you've got to be the jack of all trades. I think the other skill, as everyone has probably said before me, is persistence. Like, sometimes, like, you wake up and you don't feel good. You don't get a lot of good feelings of like, yeah, this is awesome. Like, it's not awesome usually for 99% of the time. So it's not listening to your feelings too much, but knowing when to listen to your feeling. If you've got like a gut feeling that something, but not listening to the surface feelings. Like, I don't feel good. So, but you just got to work. You just got to do it. So that would be my two big qualities, just to be able to reach out to people and to kind of push through the feelings when things get hard.
Right, and that's something that's so under discussed, right? I feel like entrepreneurship is so often glamorized, but it's hard. And you need to be persistent. You need to know how to reach out, how to have a community of people who can help you out. All of that.
Yeah.
So for a lot of teens, this seems like, I bet it seems kind of airy to talk, or you're not sure of where to go. So how can teens work to cultivate these skills that you've touched on?
You've got to get out there and get experience on these skills. So by volunteering at places or starting small things, like, for example, I worked at a place where you have to cold call people. Like, I don't know, this what was one of my early jobs. I had to cold call people, and that gave me that skill. And I worked when I was 14 years old at this place where I had to like pack envelopes in a particular way, and I had to do it for like hours on end. And it was these jobs I was thinking I didn't feel like doing it, but then I made myself go, no, just keep doing it, because you want to get this much money, so then you can get this. So everything you do, you actually can cultivate these skills. You don't have to be an entrepreneur to cultivate these skills. Sometimes even helping out your brother or sister when you don't feel like it is building empathy and building compassion. So I think anytime you're in any situation where you feel uncomfortable, that is a good signal that it's a skill you need to build. And you want to push through the discomfort because you're going, oh, I don't feel like it, and just do it. And then at the end of it, you have the skill. And you do it again and you have the skill. So it comes slowly if you're willing to just put yourself in situations, even though it has nothing to do with entrepreneurship, to just keep being on something.
That's awesome. And before we close off, if you could travel back in time and give teenage you any advice, how would you advise yourself?
The advice I would give is, we're all brought up to think certain things, like you got to make a lot of money, or you got to do things really big, or I would quieten those voices in my head and say, do you really want to make a lot of money? Do you really want to do something that's really big? And I would try to listen to the very quiet voice in the back of my head when I was a teenager that was telling me what to do. But the big voices, because you see it on TV and Instagram, and I think everyone thinks you got to be a big entrepreneur and have heaps of money and then look really beautiful and then change the world or something. And that voice is really loud and sometimes can stop the smaller voice that's in your head that's really telling you what to do. So I think I would go back in time and have my teenage self realize that big voice that's coming from everyone else is not really what is really true, And it's a small voice that's in your head that really knows the way to guide you in the best way.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that advice with us, your journey and everything else. I honestly, I learned so much from you every time we talk. I think that your story and your journey is so incredible. So it was so exciting to have you be able to share that with students who are just starting off their journeys. So thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you. And I wish everyone well. And I hope whatever business you want to start or whatever skill you want to build, that, you know, you have so many years ahead of you, and to, you know, be brave and bold as you go out into the world.
Awesome. Now, I'd love to take a few minutes to conduct a quick survey. On the screen, you should see a link to a form. I will also put it in the chat so you can directly click on it. And I'm going to give you all a few minutes just to follow the link and fill it out. It's a really interesting form. We want for you to be able to share some of your business ideas. And then at the end of the event, we're going to select some of the best answers and showcase them. So if you happen to be one of those lucky winners, you'll get some priceless exposure to the audience, and then also get to, you know, work out the idea here with the mentors that we have for you. So please take a few minutes to think through your response, and I can't wait to see what you come up with. Just to reiterate, I have shared the link in the chat. So open up the chat if you don't see it, open up the chat and just click on that, and it should take you directly to the form link. So you should see a form like this. I've opened it up on my screen. I'll give you 5 minutes to follow that. Alrighty. Okay, so that sums up our 5 minutes. I'm going to give everyone who's still typing just another 30 seconds to press send. Submit what you have, and we will take a look at that. So I see a few last minute ones coming in, another just 10 seconds or so. This link will still work throughout the rest of our event, so you can also submit new ideas that come to you. Awesome. So I think 10 seconds should be up now. So we're going to jump into the rest of our presentation today. From here, I'm really excited to go into our youth student founder panel. So on this panel, we're going to have two really awesome student entrepreneurs, Emma and Prerana, and they are going to share the awesome stuff that they've been working on as students. So, so very excited to jump into that. Thank you so much, Emma and Prerana, for joining us.
It's our pleasure as well. I'm really excited to be able to share our knowledge, and I'm really excited to answer any questions.
Awesome. So before we get into things, I'm just going to quickly play their intro videos for you to give you a little bit of a sneak peek into the awesome, crazy, cool things that they're doing, that they've worked on already as high school students. So let's jump into that. So first, let me just make sure that the share is working. So Emma, can you verify that you saw yourself on the screen for a second there?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Hi, my name is Emma, and currently I'm working towards spreading more awareness about high school opportunities by creating a blog, Coaching for Teens, which discusses ways to get job, internship, and volunteering experiences specifically for high school students. As a high schooler, I think that often we forget or feel as if we can't do anything because of our age, that only adults can contribute to society. Due to that, there's a lack of awareness about all the possibilities and opportunities out there that can allow high school students to gain real-world experience and also give back to the community. To learn how they can find and get these valuable experiences to further nurture their passion and education for their field of interest. Currently, over the 3 months I've been working on my website, over 400 people have visited it. In addition, I managed to get my website to rank first on Google when searching Coaching for Teens. In the future, I plan to transform my website from being only a blog into a platform that connects high school students to companies to get job and internship opportunities. From this whole experience, I really learned how perseverance is. It's often easy to forget that a business doesn't get popular overnight. After all, not a lot of people talk about how difficult starting a business is, especially a student-run business, but more about how successful it became. It really does take a lot of time and effort, constantly learning from your mistakes, improving your product, and when everything seems to fail and when you really want to give up, you just have to push yourself further and continue working on it. If you want to check out the website, go to www.coachingforteens.com. Thank you!
I think you're muted.
Awesome. Okay, from there, so for everyone who doesn't know, everything that Emma just talked about, it's super amazing that she's done all of this stuff. So Emma, you founded Coaching for Teens, became a marketing maven, an SEO expert, and so much more through everything you've done. You figured out how to make your platform rank first on Google. And for those who don't know, ranking on Google is something that brands run by experienced adults struggle to do. So it's so crazy that Emma already figured that and many other things out in a matter of months. So before we start talking to Prerana, Emma, when things get tough, what motivates you to keep going and push through all of these challenges?
From my own personal experience, I found that having a community of other people, whether they be also, student founders or, related to like other people who are older who have experience, just talking to them, hearing their feedback, hearing their opinions, and, sharing ideas really keeps me going. Recently, I definitely found myself going through a slump where you lose a lot of motivation because you just think that all your efforts have not been working as much, or you just think you aren't as productive as you should be. And I realized that when I talk to a lot of people about like the issues I've been going through or the problems that I'm facing, or I just talk to other teachers, other students, hearing their feedback and also what they recommend for me to do, talking to them just gives me like a lot of, just brings the fire back in me. And it's like really fun just talking to other people, sharing opinions. And I think like through communication is one of the major ways that actually keeps me motivated.
Yeah, and how do you find a community like this? Are there any communities you're a part of?
So there are two major places that I definitely looked at to, gain feedback, but also to communicate with other people, also talking about each other's struggles. And the first one is definitely my school. Um, I talk to a lot of my teachers who have work in an area that is related to what I'm talking about, such as like a few of my like DECA teachers, and also like a teacher that knows something about like opportunities and is closely working with students. Talking to them and hearing their opinions definitely really helped. In addition, in my school, I posted email, and a lot of students actually replied and gave me really, really good feedback that were so beneficial. And I just found it really nice talking to them. And I guess the second major place would be Startup Dojo, which I'm currently in. It's basically a really nice place to like have a community where you have a lot of other students, founders who are also creating their own projects. And this was a really good way to, share your own problems, and you also hear other people's problems. Like you just feel very connected, you feel very supported because everyone around you goes through a similar thing. So I think these two places were definitely the places where I found a lot of like motivation and also was a great community.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughtful responses, Emma. Now, I'm so excited to introduce Prirana to everybody. So I'm going to share the screen one more time, and then we're going to see.
Hi, my name is Emma.
We're going to hear from Prirana.
Hello, my name is Prirana and I'm working on the water crisis to shower water wastage by creating the water conserving shower. I am passionate about this because I believe that the water crisis is as much as a big deal as climate change and world hunger. People out there all around the world are unable to acquire fresh drinking water, but we, having the luxury to shower and clean our bodies, waste it to our own pleasure. Almost 76 million Indians, don't have access to drinking water, and almost 319 million South Africans don't even have access to clean water. This is unacceptable, and the world will not change its primitively developed methods and ways unless something makes the process more economically and socially sustainable. And for that reason, I came up with a water conserving shower. In the past few months, my wins include a working Arduino circuit that manages to display the simplest timer by turning the green light on for start and the red light on for off. This is my basic minimum viable product. I've created a pitch video and I've successfully started a Kickstarter campaign. I've done the research to find my competition, and I'm working towards socially publicizing my project. My next steps are to hopefully gain profit from the Kickstarter campaign, start a social media account for my product, and start hiring manufacturers via sources like LinkedIn. The most valuable thing that I've learned so far from Startup Dojo is that perseverance, creativity, hard work, curiosity, and unconventional path-taking are crucial success factors to follow through to at least start the journey of starting a business. Patience is key, and sometimes things may not work out, so taking a break and revisiting the problem will definitely help perspective analyzation and a possible solution outcome. Thank you for watching my pitch video, and I hope you can support my campaign on Kickstarter and visit my site to learn more about the water conserving shower. Your small difference makes a big difference for many around the world, so the solution starts at your home. Thank you.
I'm muted. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Awesome presentation from Prerana. Very cool stuff. So, for a bit of a quick intro on my part, you are an incredibly young innovator. You're actually one of the youngest Startup Dojo students. And you are a great example of why age doesn't matter when it comes to making a difference. So you've displayed incredible drive and determination, and that's helped you do some crazy things, from applying to Dragon's Den, to teaching yourself electronics, to building a functioning MVP, and so much more, all while excelling in school. So amazing what you've been able to do. And I think you're a true inspiration to a lot of other young students who want to get started. My question to you is the same question I posed to Emma. When things get tough, what motivates you to keep going?
What motivates me to keep going is definitely remembering the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. So when I'm faced with a hurdle, I think I'm not in a competition. I shouldn't be stressing, worrying out. If I'm able to cross this hurdle, I'll be helping someone out there. I'll be making their day better. I'll be possibly helping them not starve or not die of lack of access to water. And I think about that and I'm like, what I'm doing is to help someone. So if I'm faced with a hurdle, it's not about giving up, but it's about facing it and talking about it with people and overcoming it so that I can help somebody. So that's definitely what I think of first when I'm faced with a tough situation to keep me going. Because if I remember what I'm doing it for, I definitely want to keep going and pursue it, even though it seems like I've reached the dead end.
That's awesome. It's so cool to see how, you're driven by impact. And you've actually been able to work towards that goal, even as a student, which I know, that's not, as a student, it might seem hard to believe that, but you guys are proof that it is possible. So if you had to pinpoint, two or three key values or maybe like soft skills that have helped you to push through your struggles, what would those be? So I'll start with Prerana and then we'll go to Emma. So three key values.
Okay, so three key values. I would say start with passion. Without passion, you can't get anywhere. So if you're not passionate about what you're doing, so like Emma is passionate about helping teens find opportunities, and I myself am passionate about reducing water wastage. And helping people who don't have access to water have access, I am able to get through my hurdles and my problems. So definitely passion is important to get to where you will be and to make your business successful. If you're not passionate, you won't get anywhere. I would say the second soft skill that you'd probably need is perseverance, definitely, because when you're faced with problems and you have to solve it, obviously, but you just got to keep on going. Like if you stop and you give up, you won't get anywhere. If you keep on going though, once you reach when you reach your outcome, you'll be so happy. So I would say definitely perseverance is something that you have to have, because you got to keep on going no matter what comes in your way, because that is one of the most important things that I can guarantee CEOs who run profit and nonprofit organizations and businesses would say that they had to develop and reach where they are now. And third of all, I would say the willingness to learn what you've never learned before, because I would say in my case, electronics, I don't know anything about circuits or programming, actually, for that matter of fact. All I've done was block coding, was nothing like what I actually experienced with. So I would say, willingness to learn, because what you may choose may not be something because I knew nothing about developing circuits and products related to making circuits. And I was very confused about how to connect something like circuits to like programming. I was like, they're not supposed to have any relations. But I was open to learning. I was like, you know what? I'm so passionate. I want to get through this, that I really want to make this become true. So I'm going to learn it. Even if it's a day or a week, I'm gonna learn it. Even though I have no exposure to it. So I would say willingness to learn is something that you definitely need to have. Even though maybe when you become a CEO of your business or your whatever organization you find, you will not be hindered by obstacles that you will face that will come by you when you become a CEO or a future leader.
Awesome. Emma, do you have anything new you'd like to add on to that?
Well, Priyana honestly took the three things on the top of my mind, which is passion, perseverance, and curiosity. So I think those are like one of the three major values that I've realized that I needed, and also to actually create a business, and something that I found that was really helpful. I guess like one more thing, just adding on, is the ability to listen. So adding on to those three values, I think that the ability to listen to other people's opinions is really important, especially when you're starting off and you don't know what you're doing. I found that like sometimes it's difficult to hear criticism, especially when you've been working really hard on something and you just get really into that zone, and you only see what you see. When you hear other people's criticism and giving your feedback, it hurts sometimes, but when you hear it and then when you see it, that can actually push you forward and actually get you to improve what you're doing. And I think definitely hearing and listening is so important. It doesn't mean you have to take what every person is saying. It's just understanding what other people see, and and being able to listen to their opinions instead of like rejecting them is really, really important. And I think like though that's like the one major thing that I would add on.
So passion, perseverance, curiosity, and then I think that's like humility to an extent. Humility to learn from other people and allow yourself to grow. That's awesome. So my next question is one from the audience. So what's the most important what's the most important lesson that you learned from Startup Dojo and the other young entrepreneurs in the program? It's been mentioned a couple of times. So why don't you talk about some of the most important lesson that stuck out to you from your time? Maybe let's start with Emma.
Okay, great. So I think it was already stated before is that there are like two things that I really learned that were really helpful. It's already said, I think that persevering is very important. I think it's like something that I really learned. Like I never really knew how important it was until I started making a business. And the second thing is just doing it. I guess we'll start with just doing it. Basically, one of the important things I learned is don't overthink. I have a habit of overanalyzing or overthinking about a project idea, especially before when I wanted to do something. I overthought. I just looked into it and I did more research, and I did too much research. And as I did more and more research, I never ended up taking action. Having research is good, but if you never take the action to utilize the research, there is no point in the research. And that's something that I think is really important, is just don't overthink and just start it. That was one thing that Angeli definitely like talked a lot about, was just have an MVP. It's okay if it looks really ugly, just get it out there. And as you're working on it, you can improve it. And as you're improving it, people aren't expecting an amazing product immediately. They're expecting something, just to get the basic function out. And then as you're building it, and when you get more time and you learn from your experiences, you're able to improve it and make it look so much better. After like just doing it, overthinking it, perseverance really comes into play. Personally, I hate waiting. I am very impatient. I like things happening now. I'm really into like fast-paced things, and businesses take a really long time, which is difficult, and it definitely makes you lose so much motivation. In the beginning few months, I definitely began to wonder, like, is this normal? Does it take this long? And it does take that long. It really does. And it's so cringe. Like, I think it's like cliche to say, like, you have to just keep doing it, but really you just have to keep doing it. And that's really how you can actually get things done. A small action that you may, just marketing once, marketing twice every single day may seem like it's doing nothing, but after a few months, after like a year of working on it, it will definitely show results.
Awesome. Very thoughtful response, Emma. Priyana, do you have anything else that you'd like to add to that?
I'll make mine very brief, but basically Failures are opportunities to learn. That is one of the biggest lessons I could say, because again, it's cliched and you might think, oh, well, many people are under the impression that, oh, I've come across a mistake and I have to waste my time and deal with it and I'm not getting anywhere. But if you look at it, you actually learn way more when you're faced with a mistake, and you learn more from it than you would if you hadn't come across that mistake. So I would say from personal experience, because programming, circuits, and a bunch of other stuff, it's hard. And when you face, challenges, you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. But after you solve it, you realize, oh, I've actually become much more smarter than I was before. So it makes you smarter, it increases your knowledge, and it makes you a rough and tough person when dealing with problems in the future. So starting from a young age is definitely a smart choice. And I would say, yeah, in simple words, failures are opportunities to learn.
Awesome. And now in one line each, quickly before we end off, if you could travel back in time by 1 year and give your old self any advice, what is the one-liner piece of advice you would give yourself?
I guess it's don't overthink, just do it.
Brianna?
Mine would be business is not easy, and not all businesses become successful.
Awesome. Thank you so much, both of you, for your time today. That concludes this incredible panel discussion. I hope everyone in the audience enjoyed that half as much as I did, because I really did. Every time I listen to Emma and Prairana open their mouths, I'm so impressed. So I hope you all enjoyed that as much as I did. Now I'm going to take 5 minutes to answer some questions you sent in, and just address that really quickly. So I'm really excited to get to that. I'm going to share my screen. And then also at the end, I'll share some of the really cool answers that you submitted through the last form. So I'm so excited to spotlight some really, really smart and talented audience members. That's right, you. So please stick around if you're excited for a shout out. On the screen, I'm going to share the PowerPoint, and I'm also going to answer a couple of questions, as I mentioned. So one question that I have in is about Startup Dojo. So as we've been having this panel discussion, I've seen a number of questions come in asking about how you can apply to Startup Dojo and how that all works. So the answer for that is, as of course we want to keep the quality of the program very high, we have limited the next batch size. So several early applicants have already been admitted, and we only have 5 spots left. If you're interested in joining Startup Dojo, step 1 is an interview. This is just a 30-minute casual conversation, and we only have 5 slots open for this interview process. So if you're interested, head over to the link I'm putting on the screen. I'll also put it up live on the screen. So you should see that now, and it should also be in the chat for you. So open up the chat, feel free to follow that. I'll give you 3 minutes to follow that link. And in the meanwhile, I'll share some really cool audience members. Just to reiterate, head over to that link to take advantage of it while you can. for taking the last few moments to follow the apply link that's on the screen. I'm going to shout out some of my favorite ideas that you all sent in. So let's shout out Anisha with her non-for-profit business, Vedant, STEM organization to spread awareness. Thea with an idea for a theater business. Liam with a really cool out of this world idea about asteroid mining. Very interesting, very innovative. Malik, I like that one, a clothing company hub. Vishan with a really cool tech business idea. And even more that I don't think I even have time to read out for you. There's so many awesome ideas here. I'm very excited to see how much innovation and creativity there is just in this meeting room itself. Really awesome. So I think that is it for your time for following the apply link. Please save it so you have it. And again, huge shout out to all the incredibly smart, ambitious people who filled in the form, and shared some really, really interesting ideas. There are so many more names I would have wanted to shout out because you all had some really, really cool ideas. Awesome. So thank you all for joining in today. So if you came to this event, you're probably in the top 1% of students in terms of ambition. You want to get into the best universities, build an amazing life, and create an impact. I know you have the ambition and the grit that it takes to get there, or else why would you be here on a Monday afternoon? So the only gap between where you are and where you want to be is knowledge and experience. That's why we want to give you VIP access to our next event on March 22nd. The next event is so cool, and we're so excited to bring the speaker to you. And we're going to discuss how successful CEOs like Peter Cooperman are positively impacting thousands of people around the world for their for-profit businesses. So a little bit different from what we heard from Abarna today. So I'm going to put that on the screen so you can follow that link. So here's the link for that. Feel free to copy that down, grab it. This will only be open for 48 hours. We had nearly 500 signups for the last few events. So, and that happened within just a couple of weeks. Many people who registered actually couldn't get in because of limited space. So because you are now a VIP, you made it into this event. So please take advantage of the VIP link. It expires in 48 hours. So if I were you, I would take it right now and I would register while it's still open, because this is a crazy, crazy cool exclusive chance that you're getting. Once again, copy this link. It's on the screen. And I'm going to take one last minute to take a quick pause to answer a couple of questions that an anonymous audience member sent in. So the questions are, I just applied for my startup dojo and really, really want to get it. How long should I expect to wait before I get a response? Great question. So as students are admitted on a rolling basis, you'll actually have a much higher chance of getting in if you apply early. The fact that you already applied is a really, really smart move. So good on you. Once you apply, you will receive an admissions decision within the next 48 hours. For the next batch, again, there are only 5 seats open. So here is the link again to apply. Click on that link before you lose your chance. And if you haven't already applied, I'll put that link once again into the chat. So I'm going to give you a few moments to follow that link. And in the meanwhile, if you have any specific questions that are unanswered, please do send them over now or email me afterwards at anjali@mystartupdojo.com. Now, this is my personal email, so please use it wisely. I do really want to make sure that all of you get as much value as possible. So take advantage of all of the VIP link I'm giving you and also my personal email, and feel free to send me any specific questions that you want answered. And I will do everything that I can to follow up with you via email and make sure that you get exactly what you are looking for. I'm so excited to help passionate, ambitious students like you all I was impressed by the ideas you shared, and I cannot wait to see the amazing things that each and every one of you accomplishes. I'm so excited to have such a crazy cool audience here with us today. And with that, take care and have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.